Hello, Frisco. We are here with Mayor Cheney to re-elect Mayor Cheney in his very first video interview during the campaign. And today our topic is pets and pets in Frisco. So first, Mayor Cheney, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you give us a background on the history of pets as a topic here in Frisco?
Yes, one thing that we've learned here in Frisco is that it seems like everyone in Frisco has a pet and they treat them like they're parts of the family, including our family. We've got two rescue dogs ourselves. Their names are Coco and Chanel, and they're very much part of our family. That's how you know I had no job in naming them.
Yes.
Um, and so it's certainly over the years been topics that get people very passionate. And going back all the way to my first term as a city council member, I was working with a group of residents that was trying to get Frisco's first dog park into our community. It was something I supported and helped them with, helped them navigate. At one point, they just wanted us to put up a temporary fence around a water tower at B.F. Phillips Park, just to say, that, hey, at least we've got a, humble beginning, so to speak.
Right.
I was actually against that. The group was mad at me at the time, but I told them if we build this temporary dog park, this will become your permanent dog park.
Oh.
And then, of course, a year later, the perfect location on Fourth Army became available, where we now have our state-of-the-art, wonderful dog park. But many people may not realize that that was probably one of the most controversial topics, honestly, in Frisco's history. There were a lot of people against it. The argument being that we were spending taxpayer dollars on a park for dogs. And of course, our argument was that this is not a park for dogs, it's a park for people with dogs. And for many people that visit the dog park, they may not visit traditional parks. And I almost lost my first re-election as a council member because I supported the dog park. And the phrase that was used against me was I supported dogs or pets over people. That was the tagline. I was the pets over people candidate, believe it or not. But as soon as we opened the dog park, people realized that that was a wise investment. We're now continuing to move on and add additional dog parks throughout the community with the goal to have one very accessible no matter where you live in town. So we had that issue. We had the pets on patios ordinance that Frisco passed as well. That now it's done at the state level, but before it was done at the state, the city actually passed that. And that was also kind of a divided conversation about should we allow that. And of course, knowing that Frisco is so pet friendly, that was something that I supported as well to continue to do that.
Good.
And so we continue to kind of grow as a city, as far as how we can become, a pet friendly city. It's a big part of our mission, especially with our connected trails and just knowing that, the people that live in Frisco, have active lifestyles and want their pets to join them as part of it.
Okay. So let's transition now into the animal shelter topic. How did that topic originally arise in front of council?
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic we've addressed, or looked at, 4 to 5 different times kind of over the last, call it decade. Anytime we have a contract come up, we're really just kind of, reviewing that as far as how we can best fill this need. Currently we do it with a regional approach. So we have a contract with the Collin County Animal Shelter. We pay them, roughly about $350,000 as part of a regional effort for us to utilize their facility for those services. And then we also have our animal services division that budgets, I think roughly $800,000 or so a year for our personnel to run that service. And so, one of the things that we look at in Frisco is, people like to tie kind of population to the need for an animal shelter in their community. And kind of what we look at is, truthfully, the need for the animal shelter is driven more by kind of how you tackle the issue from other ways. First and foremost, Frisco has great communication tools throughout our communities. It seems like every neighborhood, whether they have a next door or Facebook page, they've got some way for residents to communicate. Quite honestly, our dog, one of our dogs, Coco, is a runner, and Coco has gotten out a couple times, and it's a post on Nextdoor and Facebook, and usually we have Coco back, in 15 minutes. So those communications really make it easier for us to do that. And then also kind of microchipping your pets. We just have a lot of really responsible pet owners in our community, which is, a great thing. And then our animal services division, they do a great job of actually returning pets. And so, kind of the unintended benefit maybe of the facility being a little further away is it gives them motivation to actually work harder to return them. So, just kind of looking at some numbers, when you compare us to Plano, who does have their own animal shelter, they redeem about 14% of the animal intake. That was last year. Frisco, it's almost 40% last year. It's because our animal services, they're posting on Nextdoor, they're, returning them to the homes if they have a collar. They're checking for microchips, and that is their kind of first goal, is just to return it to the home, kind of right there on site, rather than trying to take it in. And so that's really kind of helped, with that part of the service. And then, truthfully, we're trying to be fiscally responsible with our taxpayer money. And so we look at the numbers,
Right.
And building your own facility is expensive to build and to operate. And you look at our numbers, Frisco had 619 total intakes. We returned, 239 of those. So the numbers that we're sending to, the Collin County Animal Shelter are not a big number.
Right.
And so,
Especially not for our population. I mean, that's a very low number.
That's right. And so, the system we were using, has been, effective. Now residents do have to drive, a little further if their dog isn't returned to pick up their animal. But, when we just kind of look at the cost benefit, analysis of that, it just has never been cost effective for city of Frisco to take it on ourselves. And so here's kind of another kind of misperception. Our council is really kind of unified on what we think the approach should be, which is to look at this from a public-private partnership perspective. And so we do think as we get to build out, that will be where the opportunity may arise, where if we can have a private partner come in and, run a facility here in Frisco and provide the same level or hopefully better level of service at, similar costs, that would really be something interesting to look at. Our chief is supportive of that. Chief Shilson, they don't think it's something they want to be in the business of, running an animal shelter, just because of the resources that it would take and the cost. And then you have to decide if you're a kill facility and, how do you deal with those kinds of issues. And so, council is unified that we don't want a city-run facility, but we'll continue to work on, finding perhaps a private partner to fill that need.
Okay, so you've kind of answered my next question, which was, why wasn't a pet shelter included on the bond vote that's coming up now also?
Yeah, so that was part of, the discussion with the bond committee, which is, do we put a $5 million bond, on the ballot? Truthfully, when we had a discussion, if we do the private way like we would, that source of funding would not likely be the most appropriate source of funding for that. And so that's why it didn't necessarily make sense, nor would it be enough. And so I thought personally, and the majority of council thought as well at the time, that it would probably be sending mixed signals to the public, which is, hey, if this passes, then you get an animal shelter, which is not what it would have been. And so it was being contemplated, really just to be on the ballot for some source of validation, I would say, or to have that as a potential tool, available. And I think we probably would have left people disenfranchised, had we gone down that approach, because I think many people showing up at the polls would have different expectations. They would run, if I'm checking yes in this votes, and I expect Monday morning you just start working on building an animal shelter in our community, which, would not have been the case. And so, when that opportunity does arise, there's a variety of tools that we can use to execute it. And so that's kind of what we'll start working, towards, is that. And it may be on a future bond election if that opportunity arises, or we may use some other tools. We've got CDC tools that are potentially available to us, or other structures to do these types of projects.
Okay. And my understanding also is that there's an animal shelter in Plano, but there's also one in McKinney and in Denton. So we're kind of surrounded by animal shelters. Is that a part of the equation also?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of really, dug into the details. It absolutely is. So the McKinney shelter is the regional shelter that serves a variety of communities, and then other cities have, built their own just for their city. And that was, kind of another, potential concern if Frisco has their own, is that are you inheriting, people bringing to your shelter,
Right.
and kind of bringing on more work. And one of the things that our animal services team told us is, a lot of times when people realize they're over their head with a pet, and they want to kind of turn the pet in, they'll take it to what they perceive to be the nicest animal shelter, and say they found the animal kind of on the road, and that would probably be, certainly Frisco. But I do think there's an opportunity here. I mean, I think the bigger vision, here in Frisco, we like to think differently, and have private partners. And I've had a few meetings with potential private partners, just kind of brainstorming this kind of concept, which is, what would it look like, where it's not just a standalone animal shelter, but, maybe something as a bigger kind of pet utopia, call it. You could have these services, perhaps with a vet clinic or, other pet related businesses, dog park, those kinds of things,
Or even just Frisco ISD, like any kids that are wanting to go into veterinary services, like that would be interesting as well.
So I do think, absolutely, I do think there's potential for a much bigger idea, and that's what we're going to really kind of start digging into and exploring.
Perfect. Okay, so what can pet advocates do right now in Frisco to make us more pet friendly, even more pet friendly, if you will?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the things we hear from our pet advocates and wanting an animal shelter is, a lot of them like to volunteer, and do things, as far as encouraging microchipping or doing educational classes, and how they can share their passion for pets, through those kinds of things. And so, we actually have started it was a mayor's ad hoc animal advisory committee. So that is made up of some of our residents and Councilwoman Laura Rummel, who is very passionate about this project. It's her, as she jokes, it's her literal pet project. But she, and that team is kind of working through, kind of all these ideas as far as how can we continue to kind of push things forward. Our animal services, they're also kind of continuing to kind of work through how we can be stronger in this. I just launched a GIS kind of lost pet that's already seeing incredible results. They're kind of continuing to meet about education, how we can continue to push that forward. And then here, within the next couple of months, we'll continue to have these conversations about, how do we go out and potentially seek these, private partners that we're looking at and generating some of these ideas. So we encourage the public to be part of those conversations. We'll be having announcements, as far as, how people can continue to be involved and share their passion. And then our parks department, Play Frisco, they're working to expand our pets programming. We already do kind of the halls in the pool and other types of things, throughout the community, the year, but they're really expanding activities that can be done with your pet. So stay tuned for many of those types of things. We're starting to build more dog parks in our community. So we got a few more coming online soon. But we'd love to hear what other ideas on how we can make Frisco more pet friendly.
Excellent. So on that, how can people get in touch with you, Mayor Cheney, if they have more ideas on how to help support our pets here in Frisco?
Reach out anyway. So my cell phone is available to everyone, 214-707-7320. That's call or text. I get texts from random numbers with questions and ideas, every single day. I love it. Or email jcheney@friscotexas.gov, or certainly ways. We're always out in the community, whether it's coffee with the mayor, or just kind of out and about, and would love to hear people's ideas. And people can always come to city council meetings the first and third Tuesday and speak during citizen input if you want to address the entire council.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So as we wrap up, tell us where we can find you online and tell us early voting. And I know that election day is May 6th, and I know that early voting starts April 24th, but I can't remember what day it ends. So help me out.
So starts April 24th, which is a Monday, and it continues, through Saturday, and then picks up again the following Monday and Tuesday, and then election day is Saturday, May 6th. You can find out more information about our campaign at mayorcheney.com or on Facebook as well, at Mayor Cheney.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mayor Cheney, for joining us today. And everyone, if you have any questions, reach out to Jeff, reach out to jcheney@friscotexas.gov, or contact him on his website, mayorcheney.com. And Mayor Cheney, thank you again so much for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Wendy.
All right. Bye.